Hello, my name is Elaine Willman. I've been a very frequent visitor to Montana in the last several months and plan to return again soon. Um, I'm following very seriously the proposed CSKT water compact. As the author of Going to Pieces and a long-time expert in federal Indian policy, I have some very, very deep concerns about that proposed compact that I've been sharing with legislators and county commissioners and citizens across western Montana in 11 counties. I want to just briefly touch on some key pieces that concern me in preparation for the upcoming Monday, February 16th Senate Judiciary Committee review, and I'm really hoping that this information will get to those legislators and to other citizens and other legislators before that committee. There's a phrase, all of the documents for the compact are on your DNRC website, and I've been looking that over very carefully in the recent days. The primary documents are right on that DNRC website, and I went through the primary document that memorializes the compact. In that primary document, the phrase time immemorial appears 11 times. It also appears on a table of a summary water rights table of quantification where the tribe claims water rights. That is also a supplemental document. Time immemorial is a hybrid. It is Indian folklore and legal fiction. It rarely has applied in the United States in judicial rulings. A very rare case in the southwestern states involved a tribe whose lands were part of a Spanish land grant and whose circumstances were very different than any of the other 566 tribes in the country, certainly very different from the 10 treaties that were executed by Governor Isaac Stevens, and I'll speak about that in a minute. But time immemorial is referenced 11 times in the primary document, and the tribe is asserting time immemorial water rights over all of the in-stream flows at their natural source and Flathead Indian Project sites, time immemorial over the wetlands protections, over High Mountain Lakes, Flathead Lake, time immemorial over the Kootenai River and all of its tributaries, time immemorial over Swan River and the Clark Fork River. Time immemorial in the United States, that clock started on September 25th, 1789, when the United States Constitution was adopted. When the United States government began, that's time immemorial for the United States, and nothing earlier, nothing that predates the Constitution without a judicial ruling. So that really troubles me that time immemorial is being ceded to the Salish Kootenai by your governor, attorney general, and your legislators that support the compact. It is a fiction. It is a myth. It needs very precise judicial ruling before anybody ever accepts that. And for the state to set that precedent with this tribe is unthinkable. The other thing that I looked for is the Montana Constitution references in the primary documents. There's one. There's a reference to the Montana Constitution that asserts its authority to give the Salish Kootenai tribe $55 million. That's the only reference to the Montana Constitution in your primary document, to give the tribe 55 million taxpayer dollars of Montana. There is no reference to Article 9 of the Montana Constitution that requires state elected officials and authorities and staff to protect and preserve the environmental life support system of the state. And what is water if not the environmental life support system? No reference to Article 9 in that compact. No reference to Article 2 in that compact, over the 35 enumerated rights of Montana citizens, of which property rights are one. No reference to Article, only one reference to the Montana Constitution in the whole compact, and that's the authority to give the Montana taxpayer dollars, 55 million of them, to the Salish Kootenai tribe. That's troublesome. The Hellgate Treaty is an interesting discussion because it is used as justifying long ago water rights that really don't apply, and it is not an active legal document since October 28, 1935, when the Flathead Indian Reservation became the very first, the Confederated Salish and Kootenai tribe became the very first federally recognized tribe under the Indian Reorganization Act on October 28, 1935. A tribe may be a treaty tribe or an Indian Reorganization Act tribe. It is not both. The only thing that came forward out of the Hellgate Treaty for the tribe was the boundary of the Flathead Reservation. The boundary was incorporated into their Constitution and their federal charter of 1935. Something to be known about the Stevens treaties, and I would have hoped that any of your legal counsel working on this issue for over 10 years would have done some cursory search. The Governor Isaac Stevens was a highly respected individual by President Franklin Pierce. He first contracted with Isaac Stevens as an engineering expert to lay the rail, to survey and lay a rail from St. Louis to the Puget Sound in 1853. That success accomplished, President Pierce assigned Governor Isaac Stevens to be the governor of the Washington Territory at that time. Along with that title came Superintendent of Indian Affairs for the Washington Territory, and Franklin Pierce instructed Isaac Stevens to go out and create as few reservations as possible and to cluster as many tribes as possible in the Northwest, the Washington Territory. An example of that would be the Yakima Reservation, which when that treaty was created for the Confederated bands and tribes of the Yakima, 14 tribes were clustered on that reservation. On the Flathead Reservation, 3 tribes were identified and more were welcome. On West Washington Coast, the Tulalip, the Point Elliott Treaty, 7 tribes. There were 10 reservations set up by Governor Isaac Stevens, and all of them were owned in title and under the federal jurisdiction of the United States. All of them were for the beneficial use and occupancy of multiple tribes. None of them granted water rights to tribes. None of them. The right to fish in common with, and some provisions for blacksmith and agricultural things. The right to be protected and safe from intruders, yes. But the federal government had the jurisdiction there, not the tribes. And there were certainly no water rights attached to the Hellgate or any of the other Isaac Stevens treaties. So that is misinformation that has never been corrected by all of your finest legal counsel in Montana. I should say that I am not an attorney. I did go to law school for 2 years prior to pursuing my master's in public administration, and I've worked with really excellent attorneys across the country for 20 years. The lack of accurate information provided to legislators and Montana County commissioners and citizens has been alarming, really and truly alarming. So the other document that caught my attention that I wanted to call to your attention is a legal analysis of constitutional issues that was prepared by your Attorney General, Tim Fox. He's addressed a memorandum to the state legislators, assuring the state legislators that there's no violation of the U.S. Constitution's Fifth Amendment, the Takings Amendment, nor is there any violation of the 14th Amendment, equal protection. In Attorney Fox's discussion with in the memorandum to the legislators, also a primary document on the DNRC website, Attorney Fox is saying there is no Fifth Amendment taking arising from the proposed water compact because there's nothing in the compact that is rendering any of the land economically valueless. He describes physical taking and regulatory takings. But he says there's no taking in the compact because none of the land will be rendered economically valueless. That is not the threshold for a taking. Economically valueless is not the low bar, the threshold for a taking. A parcel or a land can be partially taken, substantially taken, any level of taking, but it does not have to be rendered economically valueless to constitute a taking. And water is a physical taking, and economic reduction is a regulatory taking that will arise directly associated with a compact. So I disagree with the information that Attorney General Fox is providing the legislature on the constitutional flaws. The other one is the 14th Amendment, and in that discussion, Attorney Fox says, oh, there's no 14th Amendment, no equal protection violation on the reservation because by law, the state government has to recognize the federal government and has to treat the tribal government and tribal members differently than the non-members on the reservation. So they're not violating the 14th Amendment, they're simply complying with judicial rulings that declare tribes political entities and not race-based entities like Morton versus Moncari of 75. His point is there's no equal protection violation, and he's only focusing on the tribal members and non-tribal persons within the residence. That's like holding up the shiny thing, because the 14th Amendment violation is what will result from the state treating non-tribal residents on the Flathead Reservation very differently from all other residents of Montana. That's the violation. It's the broad. It's treating all other Montana residents who do not live on the Flathead at a different level than those who lose their 14th Amendment and equal protection on that reservation. I don't know where Attorney General Fox is coming from on that, but I would really hope that the legislators question his analysis. Lastly, I would really like to send a special thought of appreciation to those senators and representatives that have recently stepped up and are publicly opposing the proposed compact. That means the world to the county commissioners whose operating budgets are going to be directly affected, to municipalities, to the property owners and landowners and residents, and to all folks that use water in western Montana. Thank you to those legislators that are showing that kind of courage and that kind of concern about their constituents. Thank you very much.